Satellite Studio. 1 o'clock a.m., Orange County, California, Satellite Studio. 1:30 a.m., San Diego, California, Satellite Studio. Stay tuned for more exciting programs only here on INCRadio.
This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ, or Iglesianicristo.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to INC Radio Florida. I'm one of your hosts, Brother Robert Topalis, here in, actually, I can say it, semi-sunny Florida today because it's a little bit overcast, but today's show is sure to bring a little sunshine into your morning because we're going to be talking about one of the things that many folks here in the United States, especially around this time of year, are going to be doing. That's going to be visiting Florida because spring break is right around the corner for many schools and many students. And there just seems to be this attraction to converging to us here in this little tiny state of Florida. And Brother Jim, you know it better than I because of the beautiful place that you live up there in Pensacola. So we're going to toss it to you and give us our international greetings, please.
Hey, good morning, Brother Robert. And yes, we have the beautiful white sand beaches that bring down so many snowbirds and so many people. I always love this time of year because honestly, up around Pensacola, little insider information, it is still kind of cold. But it's always fun to see the people from Wisconsin just diving right in that Gulf. They don't really care. And of course, we have to wear the sunglasses because they're very pale. But anyway, buenos dias, buenas noches, maganda gabe, guten Tag. Thank you all for watching. Last week, we had some people that sent us some hellos from all over the world, and we just love it. We were talking about it before the show. It really makes it special for us. So let us know where you're viewing from because it's just so neat. Because we're definitely an international show. And with that, of course, it takes an international pool of talent, and we have a lot of people to thank. And we're going to Sister Audrey for that. Good morning, Sister Audrey.
Good morning, Brother James. So good to see you all. And of course, everyone else watching on INC Radio Florida. We're so happy to have you join us this morning. So we thank you, first and foremost, for continuing to support us here. But of course, we continue to spread our thanks and our sincere greetings to our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, our Subsea CEO and CFO Coordinator, Brother Angelo Aranio Manalo, our Station Manager, Brother Arnel Solano, and our Executive Producer, Brother Manley and Gaia. And here, of course, in the home front of our beautiful Sunshine State, we'd also like to thank our District Minister, Brother Marlon Balason, our Assistant District Minister, Brother Carlitos Medina, and our CFO Overseer, Brother Mark Bernal. Thank you so much for always supporting us here in the District of Florida. And of course, extending our thanks overseas to you, Kuya Tech, there in the home studio. Thank you so much for supporting us behind the scenes. Always, always. We know it's midnight there in the Philippines. So thank you so much for staying up late with us. And for you to stay connected with us every Saturday, we're going to toss it over to my beautiful Sister Marisol across the Tampa Bay. Hi, Sister Marisol.
Hi, Sister Audrey, and hello, everyone listening to us wherever you may be. As always, we love to encourage you to stay connected, whether we're here on air or you're waiting for the next show. So to remind you how to do that, to stay connected, you can go onto www.iglesianicristo.net/INC or search INC Radio on YouTube and click Live Now. Or you can also download the official INC Radio mobile app for Android and iOS devices. So make sure to stay connected and tune into INC Radio. With that, that brings us to our exciting topic for today. And for that, I'm going to toss to Brother Robert.
Hey, thank you so. Oh, I had to check to see if my microphone was still on. Thank you, Sister Maricel. And the one thing I did forget to bring up, Brother Jim, can you believe it's March? Today is, of course, March 2nd here on the East Coast of the United States, which means it's already March 3rd there in the Philippines. And this year is just absolutely just flying by, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I tell you, but we've had a chilly winter, so I am all set for the summer. I'm ready to do some
You're
traveling.
done. You're done with all this fake winter that we've been dealing with down here in Florida, right? It's no
That's
more of
right.
that. Well, terrific. Well, speaking of fake winners, because those and of course the irony is just a couple of days ago, we celebrated, well, we didn't celebrate, but it was February 29th, which, as we all know, is considered leap year, right? For us here, when we take a look at our calendars. And it's a day that only exists once every 4 years, right? It's a date that's only recognized once every 4 years. So a lot of people were like talking about it not being a real day, that it's so fake winners, fake days of the week, who knows. But we're here talking about wintertime, which is something that a lot of the folks here in the United States, especially in the East Coast and up north, are having to deal with. So what do they do when they have their time off during spring? And that's, of course, travel down here to Florida. And Florida's one of the ideal destinations, primarily because of the weather, as long as it's not raining. But when we're down here in the middle of our January and February months, where it can get a little chilly, a little bit nippy, but most of the time that weather is hovering just like it is today. I think we're going to be in the upper 70s down here in the first couple of days of March. And last week, I know that we hit, I think it was the 78, 79 degrees as well. So that's obviously one of the biggest attractions. But we want to do our Florida travel series for you once again, because if you are planning on coming down here to Florida to spend your spring break, we want you to be able to make the best of your time. So we're going to take you on a personal tour of our cities during this series. And of course, we're going to start off, since three of the hosts that are here today are from this wonderful city, the beautiful city of Tampa and the Tampa Bay area. So let's take a quick look at what you could do while you're here in Tampa. Let me see if I can actually get my screen to work. It's always such a pleasure when technology is there you go. And you'd figure that by now I should have the hang of this, right? Because but it's never I will challenge folks. It's never quite as easy as it seems. So we're here to talk about the city of Tampa, and actually more than just the city of Tampa, because the Tampa Bay, that's, I think, the first thing we need to clear up is that a lot of people confuse. There's the city of Tampa, and then there's also what they refer to as the Tampa Bay area, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But the city of Tampa itself is a city here on the west coast of Florida. We'll see that in the map here shortly. And it's comprised of approximately, the city itself, about 400,000 people in the city of Tampa. But the metro city or the metro area of Tampa is actually comprised of almost 3.2 million people, making it the third largest city in Florida. And that's behind Miami and Jacksonville. So definitely has a small town feel, which is what attracts a lot of people to it. But you definitely have a lot of the big city problems, we'll call it, like traffic and crowding in certain areas. But that's one of the biggest attractions, I think, here, is because it is smaller in terms of being able to get around. You can get to a lot of places in a relatively short amount of time. But let's start by talking about what are, let me see if I can get my screens here to actually work the way they're supposed to. There you go. So as I mentioned, the city of Tampa sits here on the west coast of Florida in an area, it's called the Gulf Coast. And the reason for that, as you can see on the map, is because we sit right there at the Gulf of Mexico. And the Tampa Bay area, which is that center area there, is a bay. And we call it a bay because parts of it actually do extend out into the Gulf of Mexico, and it forms that little pool there called a bay, and that's the Tampa Bay area. When we take a look at the next map, we can look at what is one of the most attractive things about coming to the Tampa Bay area, which is what drives so many people into Florida, not just of course here, but of course in many parts of Florida. But that is the beaches. Those are the big attractions. And as you could see on the map that we have here on the top left, there's more than just a handful of beaches down here. You've got beaches all up along the coast. You could see the Tampa Bay area is that area that's right there in the center with the big pirate ship. And then you actually have what a lot of people don't realize is you go further north into that area right where it sort of closes as you get closer to downtown. That's technically called Old Tampa Bay. So you have the Tampa Bay itself, but as you go into that little area towards the downtown area that's in the middle, that's actually called Old Tampa Bay, and that's the bay that's actually crossed by three of the bridges. There are three bridges that actually connect the Hillsborough County, Tampa Bay proper area into the Pinellas County area, which is where all the beaches are. So you definitely want to know how to get there. So you've got the Howard Franklin Bridge, which is called the 275 that gets you across. Then you have the Courtney Campbell Bridge, which is my personal favorite bridge because that one looks, I don't know if you have the same feeling. And Brother Jim, you've been here. When you go across the Courtney Campbell, you've got all these palm trees that line that freeway, that little bridge crossing. And it's really, to me, reminiscent of like driving in Hawaii, where you have such a low, the bridge itself sits so low close to the water, which is beautiful when the weather's good. But during hurricane season, if you've ever seen that, those bridges will actually get washed out because it sits so low that the water can go right into an ingress onto the highway itself. So that's the Courtney Campbell Bridge, and then that connects Clearwater to Tampa. But the oldest bridge that's here is called the Gandy Bridge, which is a little further south. And the Gandy Bridge is the one that actually connects South Tampa into like the Pinellas Park, St. Petersburg area. All three bridges are about 6 to 7 miles in length. So they're fairly long bridges. Make sure that you gas up before you cross. Because you're not going to have many options when you get halfway there and find out your gas tank is empty. And it's funny because the first time I drove on that bridge ever, I saw a sign that says, "Please check your gas." And I was like, how long is this bridge?
Right.
That starts to get you worried because you're thinking, how long is this bridge if you're reminding me that I have to gas up? So that's coming across. But of course, you're going to cross those bridges because you want to see these beautiful beaches. And we've got, as you saw, like I said on the map, you've got just probably a dozen or more beaches just in the Tampa Bay area that are all made of that same beautiful white sugar textured sand. But we've highlighted a couple of them here. Probably the most popular, and Brother Jim, I know you've been here, Clearwater Beach, right?
Clearwater is beautiful. And let me tell you, it's just like all the restaurants are right there. It's easy to get to. And, for those people who love the fish, even though I forgot to bring my fishing gear, but the next time I'm going to be fishing off that fishing pier you can see in the background for Clearwater Beach. That's just one of, the big recommendations for anybody that's traveling down to Florida. If you like to fish or you've always wanted to fish, we have these great fishing piers and you can really catch fish. And I've told people for years that I load up with all kinds of fish. I had never saltwater fished before, but thankfully there's a lot of really dumb fish, I think, in Florida. But there's also the ones that are more
very
talented.
smart fishermen, maybe.
So I seem to be able to catch all kinds of good, but they're delicious, smart or dumb. And but there's certainly some, big game fish out there as well, which is really fun to watch people pull in.
Yeah,
So,
fishing is like such a big pastime for people who come down here. Not just fishing off a pier, which is super popular, but it's also deep sea fishing. Going into they'll charter a boat, they'll go into the Gulf. And one of the things I want to point out, when you catch fish here in the Tampa Bay area, you actually can eat it because our bays are pretty clean, and the salt, the warm water of the Gulf, I think just really attracts a lot of these beautiful fish that are so flavorful. Grouper. What's one of your favorite fish to catch, Brother Jim, when you're down here in the Gulf?
Oh, gotta be the pompano. I just love, that's my favorite fish to eat. The pompano, it's so juicy. If you've never had pompano, it's a taste alike because it's kind of like salmon, but it's
Mhm.
got a nice clean. It's a little lighter flavor, but it's super fun, and you can catch those from a pier because they come in right around the where you find the dunes and things like that underwater. But I tell you, the fishing is great. And like you said, these bays like Tampa Bay and we have Pensacola Bay, these big bays along the Gulf are really nurseries for fish. That's where they come in. The mama fish is coming in. They're going to raise their family in a lot of these grassy areas, and they're all going to come out and out of those bays at some point. It's really exciting. Of course, you can catch a lot of fish. When they all come flying out of the bay, when there's millions of fish out of the bay, don't do like I did. I got so excited. I happened to have my swim trunks in. I dove in. I thought I was going to catch them. And there was a guy up on the beach with my smarter wife saying, he probably shouldn't be out there swimming. That's when the sharks kind of get into a feeding frenzy. But I didn't have any
Oh,
problem.
wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a pro tip. Pro tip: when you see the fish in the schools of fish running, don't jump into the water. So
Right yet, but
it's good. That's a good point. We'll put that on our checkbox. So, and I know, Sister Marisol, your family just recently moved down here, and your dad's a huge lover of fishing. Has he had a chance to really take his pole out there and see what fishing in the Gulf is like?
Yep. With all of the bridges that we have, fish love to gather around that structure. And so he actually has a kayak that will get him into those hard to get to places in between the poles of the bridges and gets him a little better access to those feeding frenzies without being in the water.
Without having to jump in there and endanger yourself. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and it's great because the beaches down here. I mean, obviously, fishing is a great sport. Just anything you would want to do on a beach, and everybody comes here during spring break, especially to go to Clearwater Beach because it's the most popular. It's one best beach. On, I think it was TripAdvisor, a couple of other national, like USA Today, actually did a couple of surveys about Clearwater Beach and named it the number one beach. So it obviously draws a lot of attraction. What a lot of people don't realize, though, that sand that everybody falls so in love with in Clearwater Beach is the same sand along that 32-mile stretch of beach from all the way as far north as Honeymoon Island, all the way down to one of our favorite hidden beaches, which is the bottom left, called Paso Grill Beach. I know, Sister Audrey, you've been there a couple times, right? What is
Yeah,
it you
yeah.
and Brother RJ love about Paso Grill Beach?
I mean, coming from northern Florida and northeast Florida, so we're considered the first coast. We have very different beaches. So we get the crowds per se of downtown Jacksonville, but I always gravitated to the more residential because I mean it's the same thing along the East Coast too. It's the same sand. You get the same waves, but it's the privacy of not being so overcrowded with other people on the beach, and it's just more peaceful, and that's my beach experience. I like to have my own space with my company and other people having a good time as well. So what I love about Paso Grill is that you get that feel. There are residential homes, but there's also a strip of shops that you can go to that are just walking distance, and it's more intimate, especially when you go with either a small group of friends or family or just your loved one. It's still the same beautiful experience.
You're not fighting off the 10,000 spring breakers who've all converged because many people don't know about Paso Grill Beach. It's a local community beach that's down there. It's got that nice neighborhood feel, but same beautiful white sands, and it's on the southernmost tip of the St. Petersburg beaches that are there, and right above it or right below that is actually Fort DeSoto State Park. And Fort DeSoto State Park, it's a state park, so it actually, of course, is being managed by the state. But one of the things that's beautiful about it is they've got 3 fishing piers. Especially if you go to the northern part of Fort DeSoto, it's isolated. So even though the southern parts of it may be crowded with picnickers and everything, You go to the northern part of Fort DeSoto State Beach. I think they call it North Beach, in fact. It's much more open, much more private, and you literally can be walking in some areas where you think you're on some tropical island someplace else. So, that's what we look for down here. Is we try to find these smaller beaches where we're able to enjoy, have our activities without having to necessarily fight off the crowds, and especially the parking.
Well, and it's a big like shout out to Florida State Parks. Like in
Hmm.
the state park, they always have these beaches. It's a great. There's usually some destination like a fort. We have Fort Pickens where we're at, but it's a great way to spend a whole day with the family, where you can go in,
Yes.
you can tour the fort when it gets a little hot. You can go out to the beach and enjoy the sun and the warm water. And it's just a perfect day. I think it's one of my
It
favorite.
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, so many activities. You can kayak, there's mangroves here. You can kayak, you can explore, you can bike ride. So definitely a big shout out to the Florida State Parks, for what they're able to do for our beaches. So moving on, because I know beaches, we could talk about that for hours, right? But we want to talk about the culture here in Tampa. A lot of people don't know a ton about what there is to do in Tampa aside from beaches. The minute you say you're going to Tampa, Florida, everybody thinks you're going down there for the beaches, or you're going down there because you're going on a cruise, or that you're going down here because of something other than just exploring the city. There's so many things that you could do while you're here in Tampa. Of course, Tampa is rich in history, especially since Tampa is where, for years in the 1800s, was the home of cigar manufacturing. A lot of cigars were manufactured here in a little city or a little section of the city called Ybor, which is what you see there on the top right with that little trolley car. Ybor City is the hub of where cigar manufacturers from Cuba all converged. And of course, as we know, and our counterparts and family down in Miami may argue, in Ybor City is where the Cuban sandwich was born. So I'm waiting for the comments for everybody from Miami, but that is where the Cuban sandwich was here in Tampa, Florida. And we're going to talk about food here in a little bit. But of course, also in Ybor City is the La Segunda Bakery, which is the mother of Cuban bread. That restaurant's been around that bakery's been around since the 1800s. And of course, that's where Cuban bread first started. But, there's museums here. The Henry B. Plant Museum up on the top left is located inside the University of Tampa campus, the UT campus. It's beautiful, gives you all the history about Tampa, the shipping industry that was here, the migrants that were here during that era when cigar manufacturing was such a big thing, and just really a lot of the history around the pirates that are here in Tampa as well. We were just talking before the show that last month was a celebration here called the Gasparilla Festival. And the Gasparilla Festival is an annual festival that celebrates the history of pirates, believe it or not. I mean, you usually see the swashbucklers in movies and things, but, here in Tampa, 100 years ago, they were a real thing. And they invaded Tampa, and they actually took over the city. And annually, they celebrate that in the Gasparilla Festival with parades. And actually, the Gasparilla Parade is the third largest parade in the country, behind the Macy's Parade and the Rose Bowl Parade that's in Pasadena. So not too shabby for us having the third largest parade in the city. You can see down on the bottom, we also have a lot of museums. There's actually 7 museums in Tampa. A lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of different things to do aside from going to the beach. We've got a children's museum. We've got a museum of modern art. In the St. Pete area, we actually have the Dali Museum, right? Salvador Dali's museum is there. And we also have a lot of science and technology museums here as well that you can often see Sister Maricel traveling through in the science and technology areas. And then we have parks, lots of parks. There in the middle, you can see the Tampa Congregation, in fact, in the middle of a photo for an activity that they had, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, at Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park, which is right in the heart of downtown. And the park there is beautiful because it's got that beautiful view of the cityscape behind you, lots of fields to play in for the kids. We've got pickleball courts, which is a big thing, down here as well, and tennis, and just a ton of different park activities. Of course, and one of the things that a lot of people love to do here in Tampa is go exploring and hunting for murals. And there are tons of murals. You could see an example of one down there on the bottom left. Lots and lots of culture that you can find here. But to get to probably the most active topic, we got to talk about food when you're talking about Tampa, right? Because when you get down here to Tampa, don't be fooled into thinking the only thing you're going to find here is seafood. Okay. Now, our seafood game, pretty good. Maybe not as good as Pensacola's, but I'll say it's pretty good.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Fair to Midland, right? Right, brother Jim?
Oh, yeah.
But it's really the other cultures that we celebrate down here that a lot of people don't know about. Obviously, we're going to be very rich in Cuban history, so there's a lot of Latino influence when it comes to our foods. As you can see there, we've got samples of the famed Tampa Cuban sandwich. And then we also, on the bottom left, we've got a lot of different Latin flavors, and not just Cuban food. We have Puerto Rican food, Argentinian, Colombian, Mexican food. Very popular here in Tampa. Lots of places, especially in that Armenia Boulevard, Armenia Drive area of Tampa. You could drive up and down that street, and I'm pretty sure you're going to find, if you're looking for Latin food, you're going to find any Latin food you could think of if you're driving down
Hillsboro.
in Hillsboro, right? So any of those streets are just very rich in Latin culture. And of course, the Asian food game has elevated a lot as well. Sister Marisol, I know we are all happy to see the big influence of Korean restaurants that are now opening down here. They're exploding. A lot of Asian fusion restaurants are opening as well. The one restaurant that we were talking about not too long ago was this really high-end Filipino Asian restaurant called Sunda that opened. It's actually from Chicago, and it's one of the Michelin-rated restaurants. It's started to open down here as well. So it's really, really starting to elevate that foodie game down here. And of course, if you're talking about Tampa, you can't talk about food and not mention Greek.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And not mention Greek food.
Really
and that of course is because Tarpon Springs, which is here in the Tampa Bay area, is the largest Greek community in the country. And it's not just a tourist place like if you're going to, an amusement park. This is a Greek community where people actually have Greek groceries. The food there is 100% authentic. And even walking around the neighborhood, everyone there is speaking Greek. But, Brother Jim, that's Greek to me. I don't know if that's Greek to you.
Greek to me, brother. Greek.
I couldn't help myself. But, so that is the whirlwind tour of Tampa Bay. For those of you that are coming down to visit us during spring break, we invite you to come and join. Please be sure that you pack layers because, down here, the weather can get a little fickle when you come down here to Tampa. But, we invite you to join us for spring break. We'd love to have you and show you the city personally. But for right now, we're down again to the bottom of the hour. And of course, we don't want to hold up our friends over at INC Radio Caribbean. So for now, we'd like to, of course, tell everyone, please have a wonderful weekend. And thank you so much for joining us here on INC Radio Florida. This is Brother Robert from here in Tampa, for Brother Jim up there in Pensacola, Sister Marisol, who's here in Tampa as well, and Sister Audrey, who's also one of our Tampa neighbors. We wish you a wonderful weekend. Stay tuned. INC Radio Caribbean is coming up next.